Mhm. Welcome back to A7iv. I want to talk to you guys a little bit about my setup here that I have today. I got a new camera today, pretty excited about it. I got a phone call from Camera Hut on Sunday saying, hey, your camera's in, come pick it up. A7 IV has arrived. So I was pretty excited to hear about that. So I went down to Camera Hut on Monday morning. I picked up my A7 IV. Look at that baby. Nice, huh? So nice. Kind of dark and you can't really see it. Anyways, that's my A7 IV that just came in, and I'm pretty excited about giving it a shot. I want to talk about a couple of the differences that there are between the A7 IV and its predecessor, the A7 III, which I really enjoyed. The A7 III was my first full frame camera by Sony. Not my first full frame camera because I did use Nikon before I met Sony. And I used the D750. I had a number of Sony cameras. I had a number of Nikon cameras. I had a D80 was my first one, then I had the D90, then the D7000, then the D7100, then I got the D750, and then I jumped back to the D90. So I had a bunch of cameras and lenses for Nikon. They were the ones that got me into photography, and it wasn't long after I got into photography that I really started to enjoy thinking about shooting video, because I enjoy telling stories through photos and through video, and I enjoyed being able to show people what Cambodia is like. That's where I'm living right now. It was exciting to be able to tell stories through photos. I especially enjoy taking photos of people. So telling photos in the beginning, it started out as, showing people what Cambodia was like, and then it became, a wedding photography, showing people, helping people remember what happened during their wedding. So there's a lot of exciting things about that as well. And then I got into Sony. I was going to buy the A7 III when it first came out, but it didn't come out in Cambodia the time that I was expecting it to. So I jumped the gun and I bought the A6500, which is a crop sensor camera, but it has a 24 megapixel sensor, and it was a really good camera. I used it up until just a couple months ago. But I bought the Sony FE EGS 24 to 105. I don't even know if you can see this. Sometimes it's not as easy to see. I got the 24. Man, it doesn't show at all. What do you know? 24 to 105 lens. It's got the G on it. I don't know if that means that it's a G Master or if it's a G wannabe. But it's a nice zoom lens. Look at that. That's a pretty nice zoom lens. It is quite a bit cheaper. I think it's like, at the time I bought it, maybe $1,300 cheaper than the f2.8, which is a 24 to 70 zoom. This is a 24 to 105, so you get that extra reach, which is really handy. The only thing that you get that's better on the G Master 24 to 70 is that you get a f2.8 constant through the whole zoom. This one is f4, which is pretty good for my needs. It also has a nice button on the side, kind of like some of the other G Master lenses, which is really nice. So that was handy for the A6500. When I wanted to do eye autofocus, I would push this button, it would connect to the eye, get eye autofocus. But after eye autofocus became something that was within the camera for most of the newer cameras, especially the A7 III, this button hasn't been used very much by me. I'm sure I could program it to do a lot of other things, but anyways, this lens is fantastic, by the way. 24 to 105. I used to have a f2.8 24 to 70 with Nikon. I really liked the lens, but my favorite lens was the 70 to 200 f2.8. That was probably my favorite lens of all time, at least until I got the 85 1.8. But this lens is great. This is great for photos. This is great for video. Really great for video. It takes really great, fantastic pictures. And because it has optical steady shot, you can get some pretty sweet pictures with it as well. So the next camera that I ended up getting after the A6500, which I sold a couple months ago, like I said, is the A7 III. And I have two of these guys. I have used them for everything. I love this camera. It's so great. One of the things that people had a big issue with was the back screen here. And you can see that, you know, it's kind of like a tilted screen, but you can't really do too much with it. You can't use it, you know, in front of you to kind of monitor your video or even to take selfies. It's not that kind of thing. And so that was a big thing for most people. And I have to admit that I did think that it was really necessary for a flip out screen. I did recently purchase a vlogging camera. I don't even vlog really, but I purchased a A7iv E10 vlogging camera, and it has the flip out screen, and it can turn around and it can show you what's going on the other side, which is pretty handy. I'll show you what's going on the other side right now. Look at that. What is going on? And so this is handy. I started to like that. The A7iv E10 does have a place for a flash. We just got done doing a photo shoot. We shot over 1,000 photos. We were taking student photos at a local international school. I do like the fact that it has a hot shoe right here. You can actually connect it to microphones as well, which is quite nice. The thing that I like the most about the A7iv E10, well, a couple things that I like the most about it is that it's really small. Okay, I got the 18-105 f4 lens here. It's a power zoom lens made by Sony for the crop sensor cameras. It's a really great lens. I bought it secondhand from a friend who also runs a photography video business, and I like the A7iv E10. It's really easy to get into the action and shoot stuff. One of the most important things that I like about this camera is that it has a touch tracking. I think it's called touch tracking, touch to track or something. It also has the eye autofocus, so I shoot a lot of interviews. And having a camera like this that shoots 4K, pretty decent 4K. I mean, I'm lighting most of my sets really well, and if I'm not lighting them with artificial light like LEDs like I'm using right now, my aperture lights, you can see aperture light right here. If I'm not lighting them with those aperture lights, then I'm using really nice sunlight. So I've got enough light. I can keep the ISO down low. I can shoot, I like to shoot on these guys with a 50 millimeter f1.8. I used to have a 35 1.8. I have a 24 1.8, and now most recently I bought a 16 millimeter 1.4, which is also a really nice lens. I really like that lens. Currently I'm shooting on a 24 1.8. It's a Viltrox, I think, lens. It's a full frame lens. And anyways, I really like this camera as kind of a backup camera. I haven't used it yet as a backup interview camera, but I have used it for some videos kind of like this. And it's actually done very well because it has eye autofocus, which is really handy. So as far as like moving in and out, like you can see here on the A7 IV, like as I move around, it's catching my eye really well, and it's doing a great job keeping me in focus on the subject. And so as we get ready to do some more interviews and stuff on upcoming weeks and months, I'm excited about the opportunity that I have with the A7 IV and pairing it up with the Sony A7iv E10, because I will be able to get great interviews, and I know that the camera is looking for the eye and it's going to keep my subject in focus, which is the most important. What else do I like about the A7iv E10? Okay, it has a microphone input, which is great. It has a headphone jack, which is gigantically huge, so you can monitor your sound. The most important thing about monitoring sound isn't that you're getting the good sound input, but it's that you're getting clear sound, because sometimes you can get some feedback or a staticky sound, or you can hear like a telephone ringing or something. It's good to monitor your sound so that you know exactly what the sound is sounding like. You can see on the back screen the audio input levels. This is very important, and you can, if you're in a pinch, just monitor the audio input levels as long as you're shooting your audio to about negative 12 decibels, and then you can edit it in post a lot easier. So great camera, Sony ZV-E10. It's just over 600 bucks. I think maybe even like around $700 if you get it with a lens. I didn't get it with a lens. I do like the power zoom 18 to 105. I'm going to be using this a lot on this camera. It's an old lens now. I've had it for a number of years, but it is also something that I can use on the A7 IV, especially when I shoot in 60 frames per second. I guess it's, I'm in Asia, I'm shooting on PAL, P-A-L, so I'm going to shoot it in 50 frames per second. So 2 times slow motion. If I put on the 18 to 105 lens, because the A7 IV has a crop factor of 1.5 when you shoot in 60 or 50 frames per second, then I can get 27 millimeters out of this bad boy. Also, the 105 ends up being like 150, a little bit more than 150 millimeters. So I have a lot of options that I can use with this one if I want to shoot slow motion in the A7 IV. But in the A7 IV, I did purposely buy a 16 millimeter lens so that if I want to shoot wide, which I plan to do a lot of on my new gimbal that I just got, Ronin something or other, I plan to shoot 16 millimeters, so it's going to become 24 millimeter when you think about the crop factor, which is 1.5 times. So don't get overwhelmed by this, the 60 frames per second or the 50 frames per second, depending on what country or what region you're in. You can shoot wide, or at least wide enough, 24 millimeters, if you use some crop sensor lenses. And crop sensor lenses are, I mean, the 16 millimeter 1.4 Sigma lens for the Sony E-mount was just over $300, and it is a fantastic lens. Now, when I put the 60 millimeter on the A7 IV, if I'm shooting photos, I only get 14 megapixels. Okay, this camera shoots 33 megapixels if I shoot a full frame lens, but with the crop sensor lens, I can get 14 megapixels, which 14 megapixels isn't that bad. It's actually even more megapixels than, say, the Sony A7S III. A7S3, is it A7S3? Yeah, so anyways, I'm not going to shoot photos on an A7S III, but if I did, I would get less megapixels than A7 IV with a crop sensor lens. So I like the option. Like, here's a 50 millimeter 1.8 lens, which is also a Sony crop sensor lens. Great lens, perfect lens. And in fact, when I went to Kenya, I was carrying my A7R III, which is what, some 40 something megapixel camera. So I took my 50 millimeter 1.8 with me, which isn't the best pair for the A7R III, but I left my 85 millimeter for my team back here in Cambodia. With the 50 millimeter, I was getting about a 75 millimeter long lens with a f1.8 or f2 when you put it on the sensor like that. And I was able to shoot 20 megapixels, which, I mean, isn't bad, really, when you think about it. So the A7 III, I loved it. I still love it. I still use it. The color is a little bit different than A7 IV. It's different from the Sony ZV-E10. But we tried to shoot in similar color profiles. For a long time, we were shooting in Cine 4. And we adjust all the coloring and stuff like that for each camera. So they come out roughly about the same. You need to edit a little bit in post. I'm not the best colorist, so it's something that I need to work on a lot. But I want to tell you that the Sony A7 III is great. I do like the A7 IV a lot better. It has a lot more options. I like how you can be in 3 different modes. So you have photo mode, you have video mode, and you have slow and quick mode, which is their, I guess, like time lapse or the time lapse and slow motion mode. I like how in the A7 IV you can get the slow and quick mode with, you can get a slow motion in 4K, no sound. It'll slow it down to either 50 frames per second or 25 frames per second, up to you, depending on what you need for your workflow. But it seems like it does pretty well. It's doing 10-bit and 422 and so the quality is really high compared to the A7 III, which can only shoot at 1080p, which is high HD, and that's in 120 frames per second, or if you're shooting in PAL at 100 frames per second. It's a great option, and I've used it a lot, and it's relatively not noticeable when you put it on a large screen and you're sitting very far away from it. But it's very nice to have the 4K, especially because you can crop in, and you can do a lot more with 4K than you can do with HD footage. So I'm excited about the opportunity that I can use the A7 IV with on that. And like I said, the touch to focus, or whatever it's called, I think it's touch to focus. Is it called touch to focus? It's called tracking, like touch tracking. So you can touch something, for example, let's see if I can do it here. I touched in the camera, and so then as I move the camera in and out, it's going to focus on the camera and follow the camera around and not follow my face. Well, looks like it's doing a little bit. All right, I don't know if it's the best, but let's see if I can get it to go again. Tracking, touch to track. It keeps going to my eyes, so I'm gonna do undo that one. Keeps going to my eyeballs. So anyways, this is the Sony A7 IV. I'm using it as a live stream camera. When you plug in the USB-C into your computer, it pops up immediately, and it gives you some options. It says, what do you want to use this for? Do you want to use it as almost like a hard drive, or do you want to use it as I forgot what it was actually. But the top one is live stream. Once you click live stream, it goes into your computer, and you open up OBS. You select the camera or the input method you want as a camera. It just pops right up there. I think it says something like ICE something for the camera. Actually, I can pull it up here and I can tell you right away what it is. It says ILCE-7M4. That's what it is, and that pops up, and you just select it. Immediately goes into live stream mode. It's HD, which is great. You can get 4K at 15 frames per second. I don't know who's going to use 15 frames per second. I don't know what kind of video you're making. If you're doing 15 frames per second, it's going to look kind of crazy. So I'm doing 25 or 24, 25 frames per second in HD. And I think it looks pretty clear. It looks great. The sensor in the A7 IV is it's either 5 or 6K, and so it downsamples to 4K, so it is actually more crisp, I think, than a normal 4K image would be. I can also use, let me see, I think I can push it right here. Nope. Still setting everything up. On my A7 III, if I hit the quick function button C3 here on the corner, it's going to punch into crop sensor mode. And if you think about it, the 4K footage that you're shooting on a camera, it doesn't take the whole sensor. So the 33 megapixel sensor is not using the whole sensor. It's using less than that in order to get your 4K image. So when you punch into APS-C mode, crop sensor mode, you are still getting enough megapixels to make a 4K image. So anyways, you're able to do even more. And some people say that you even get less noise in a APS-C crop sensor mode, because you're kind of zooming into the sensor even more. Sometimes in a full frame setting, you get a little bit more noise in your picture. So anyways, that's another option. So I use that also a lot in my cameras. So when I set up my A7 III, A7 III, whenever I'm using a full frame sensor, I've got an option to use it as a full frame lens, or I can punch in 1.5 times, and then I can use it as a APS-C crop sensor lens. And so as I set up my A and B camera, and sometimes my B-roll camera, I can punch in a little bit and just take advantage of that extra reach, so I can get different angles and stuff. So as I set up my A and B camera, sometimes I use a 28mm lens, and I punch in 1.5 times, so it ends up being like 30 something millimeters. I can do the same with my 50mm, And even with the full frame lenses, I can do the same thing, which is really quite handy. So the A7 IV has a much better door system for, you know, the A7 III has these really cheesy doors here. I don't even know if you can see it. Let me see if I can touch there and see. Can you see it? It's not really gonna look, is it? It really wants to see my eyes. Yeah, it really wants to see my eyes, which is great, I guess. The Sony ZV-E10 has a product display function. So when you hit the delete button while you're shooting, whenever you put something in front of the camera, it's gonna gain focus right onto that item. So anyways, I don't like the doors on the A7 III. These guys are like near impossible to get all of your pieces connected. So when you've got your headphones and when you got your microphone and when maybe you got your charging port and you got your HDMI port going in here, all of a sudden the things just get kind of crazy and out of whack. Can't stand these doors. So anyways, the doors on the A7 IV just open up, bloop, and they're really great. The only thing I don't like about it is that the flip screen comes out. And I can show you because the ZV-E10 is the same way. Okay, it's got the same kind of flaps here on the side. And put it up close to my face. I have to figure out how to get the product display kind of look to it. But anyways, these doors right here, let's see if I can show you here. These doors right here are great. They're really easy to work. The one here on the microphone is a little bit more difficult to manage. And I think it's about the same. On the A7 IV, I think the A7 IV is more durable than this one. This one's a little bit weak feeling, and it doesn't stay open, which is annoying. It feels like it's gonna break one day. This one is actually really nice, and the ones on the A7 IV I think are much nicer, if not just as nice as this one. But definitely the one for the microphone is much nicer than this one. So I've got access to my headphones. I've got access to my HDMI. And I've got access to my USB-C and my microphone. But the only problem is, once I plug all those guys in, and I'll show you real quick, this is the same problem the A7 IV has. So if I take this guy over here and I plug him in over here, okay, there we go. I move my wire out of the way so it's not in the way of me. And then I open up my screen. You can see that actually it starts to fumble here and get in the way. And actually I can't tilt my screen up. I don't know if you can see that really well or not. But it catches on that door right there, which is totally annoying. So when I plug in everything, you can't move your door up. So you move the door out, then you got it like this. And then if you want to tilt it up and back around, you can't do that. So you've got to tilt it here, then you got to tilt it around and then back. And so once you start putting stuff out right here, things tend to get in the way pretty quickly. And I'll show you, I'll just give you an example here. So it's nice that they have the door, the monitor that pops out like that, but look at that there. Okay? So, I mean, this one is a little bit over exaggerated because the whole cord's there, but you can imagine if the HDMI and the headphone jack are coming out of here as well, they're going to come right across in front of your screen, and they're going to make that a little bit annoying. So that's what it's going to look like that. So I'll show you real quick. There it is, turned on. There's your nice wires across. So right now on my, I don't know if you can you see that there? Right now on my screen in there, I can't see my audio levels. It is just completely blocked by the USB-C, which, I mean, fine, whatever. I mean, I can see my histogram, I can see my shutter speed, I can see my f-stop, I can see that I am, overexposed by a little bit, I can see my ISO, I can see my USB streaming output, but I cannot see my audio levels. So I'm just guessing that my audio levels are okay. I can see them on my OBS studio down there, but that is it. And I'm a little bit annoyed by it. Another thing that I really like about this ZV-E10 that I think maybe they might have in the A7 IV, I have to figure it out, So if I go into do some recording here, okay, and let's see what happens. Make sure I'm in my video mode here real quick. Okay. If I click record, you're gonna see right here that there's a red line all the way around, and that shows that I'm recording. Yeah, I think even right here, look at that. There's a recording light right there. Now, this is something that is huge. I'll tell you something. Have you ever recorded something and you didn't record it because you didn't hear the little recording sound, diddle-a-doo, 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 and you didn't see the red light here, and you didn't see the red light here? GoPro, really great system they have. They have a light on top, a light on the front, a light on the back, lights all around so that you know that you're recording. Well, A7 III doesn't have that. I've missed shots before. Seriously. And even when you're looking at at your monitor, sometimes you don't know that you're recording or not. And sometimes, like when I set up for interviews, I've got an A camera and a B camera, and I don't know if the A camera is recording because I can't see a red light. Yeah. So I don't know how much time is left either. I wish that we could know how much time is left. So it's nice to have that red box around. So on the Sony A7 IV, you got a red box coming around the screen. I think that there is a spot here for a red light, and I'm gonna have to check that out and see if there's a red light in the front, because having a light telling you that you're recording, knowing that you're recording, is very handy. Having this monitor is great. If it's got a red box around it, I can see it and I can know. The monitor is a little bit distracting just because sometimes people, they just look at the monitor the whole time, and you can see that I'm not looking at the camera, and so that can be a little bit distracting. So you got to learn how to talk to the camera, which is a little bit difficult sometimes. And I'm using the 24mm. I don't have it on APS-C mode, and so I am pretty close to the camera here. I mean, like two cameras away. 1, 2. Yep, 2 cameras away. A7 IV. So far, I like it a lot. Yeah, did a lot of good things. The first thing that I noticed with the A7 IV that was just, felt good. Just felt good. Look, I've got the A7 III. It's got a nice grip to it. It's fine. It's nice. It's not bad. I got the ZV-E10. There is no grip there at all. It seems like you could drop that puppy in a hurry. Make sure you hold on to that guy. But this one is good for a gimbal, I think. I think this is going to be a really good gimbal camera. A7 III is kind of moving out the door. It's great for interviews and stuff, but as far as like doing B-roll and stuff like that, is just not working out so well right now. And the A7R III is about the same, really, as the A7 III, except for it takes really, really, really fantastic pictures. Now that's one thing that I really want to try out with the A7 IV. I want to see how good is the picture quality, because the A7R III is outstanding. It's really outstanding. And the A7 IV, I think, is even more megapixels than the A7R III. A7 IV. What else do I like about the A7 IV so far? I mean, really, I like the A7 III so much. It's the eye autofocus, it's the touch to track focus, it's the pop-out screen. I think is going to be pretty handy. I'm very excited about shooting in slow motion, even though it's not 120 frames per second or 100 frames per second in PAL. I'm going to get 2 times slow motion, which is going to be pretty huge in 4K. I'm happy about that. I'm going to use my 16mm APS-C lens that didn't cost that much. It's fantastic. The lens is actually fantastic. The Sigma 16mm 1.4. I really like the lens. It works amazing with the Sony ZV-E10. Yeah. It works pretty well with the A7R III too. You can get pretty decent pictures, and you don't have to worry so much because you can get about 20 megapixels out of them. So that's my initial review of the A7 IV. I'll probably do it again tomorrow. Nope, I'm gonna add one more thing. I'm at 13% on my MacBook Pro, I just want to make sure I get this in before I jump up, turn it off, and charge my computer. Let me just say one more thing. I like the modes, okay? There's a button on the front. I thought it would be harder to switch. I like the modes. You can switch from photo to video to slow motion, S and Q. All within, it's just right here on your finger. Like you're holding the camera, it's there. You can switch it. When you switch, it doesn't like, on the ZV-E10, when you switch modes, it like, it takes a long time to switch modes. This one, when you switch modes, nothing changes on the screen at all. It's ready to go. You can set it up so that your S-Log or your Cine tone or your whatever it is, picture profile that you want on there is ready to go right when you switch over. Okay, so you've got to understand, this is very important. When you switch over to video mode, the aperture mode, manual mode, the shutter mode, the number 1, number 2, number 3 settings are all for video. That's amazing. When you switch back to photography, the number 1, number 2, number 3, all the M, the A, the S, whatever it is, they are all set for photo mode. So you can just switch back, take a photo, switch back, take a video, and everything is going to work out great for you. That's amazing. That is just simply amazing to me. I don't have to click M, and choose the mode. I don't have to go into number 1, choose the mode, choose number 1, M1, M1, M2, M3, M4, whatever. I can just switch the mode and it goes right into what I was in the last moment when I was just taking a video or when I was just taking a photo. Switch right back over. That is amazing. And I like that so much. Also, the exposure compensation is gone, except for the dial is still there. You can still use it as exposure compensation. You can see it on the back of the screen. You can see it in your eyepiece. But it has a lock. Oh yes, the A7R3 has a lock on the modes. I don't want to lock the modes. I want to lock my exposure compensation. I hate when I put my camera in the bag and I knock the exposure compensation. And I hate when I take it out of the bag and I knock the exposure compensation. I hate when I knock the exposure compensation when I'm taking a photo or I'm taking a video. I like the option to be able to lock that puppy, and it's a little like a clicking lock. Click, 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 click. You can hear it right here. Oh man, I can lock the exposure compensation. It is brilliant. Yeah, it's so brilliant. Anyways, thank you guys for watching this short video. Not so short video. 30-something minute video about the A7 IV. It's a good camera. I like it. And you should consider these other guys too. A7 III, A7R3, ZV-E10 is a phenomenal camera for $650 or whatever it is. Phenomenal camera. Unbelievable camera. Headphone jack, microphone. It's got everything you need. Give it a shot. It's only $650. You can buy 4 of those cameras over one of the Sony A7 IV. That's a good idea if you need a camera.